Avon Resources Limited is a gold exploration company with significant projects in British Columbia, Saskatchewan, and the Yukon. Trading on the TSX Venture Exchange, symbol ABN, and the pink symbol ABN-AF. Surrounded by world-class gold deposits and mines, Avon's 23,000 hectares Forest Kerr Gold Project is located in the heart of the Golden Triangle in northwestern BC. For more information, visit us at avonresources.com.
You're listening to HowStreet.com radio, available online at TalkDigitalNetwork.com. Welcome to HowStreet.com radio, the online source for market opinions. Here is Jim Goddard.
My guest is Sean Brodrick, Senior Analyst for EdelsonInstitute.com. Welcome to the show, and happy birthday, Sean.
Thanks, and I should also mention that I'm making the move over to Weiss Ratings. That's official now. And so that's a big change here, and so people looking for me should go to WeissRatings.com.
Oh, well, I'm glad it's good news.
Yes, exactly.
So you heard it here first.
Yeah.
Okay. Sean, oil is at a 3-year high. It pulled back a little bit today, but are we going to expect to see crude increase in price?
Yes, and it's the old thing where, 2014, 2015, we saw oil prices fall off a cliff, so people stopped looking for oil, and so there's a lack of new projects. Combine that with the fact that global oil demand is just surging. And what's driving that is demand for new cars worldwide. And so everyone in the world wants to drive like Americans, and so they are buying cars and stuff. That means oil demand is going up because gasoline demand is going up. And, of course, I talk to you all the time about the electric vehicle megatrend. And that's true, that's happening. But people want cars so much that we're going to see more gasoline-powered cars sold, even as the EV megatrend takes off. I mean, the number of cars on the road is just going to go up and up, and many of those cars will be gasoline-powered, and so that is really what's behind the oil boom. And, of course, there are all the black swans, in the Middle East and elsewhere where people really aren't sure what will happen. So that's adding some uncertainty as well. But really, it's gasoline demand from the developing world where more and more people are actually buying cars.
That accident involving an Iranian oil tanker and a freighter, that doesn't turn people on to oil very much, does it?
Well, no, but that's also small potatoes. That really doesn't matter in the big scheme of things. I mean, that was an Iranian oil tanker that ran into a Chinese ship. And, that's not anything that is really going to matter. It would matter much more if we saw one of the oil fields in the Middle East shut in, but actually they're opening up now, and yet prices still keep going higher. So just think what's going to happen when some real bad news comes along. What will happen to the price then? Now, we've seen the price of West Texas Intermediate, which is the U.S. crude oil benchmark, hit $62, which surprised a lot of people. Many people thought $60 was the ceiling. But if it hit 62, it can hit 65. So I don't think this run is over yet. And I have to say, oil services stocks are leading the way. In fact, oil-producing stocks are really not rallying as much as you might think. They're rallying, just not rallying a lot. Oil services stocks are now outperforming oil. For a while they weren't, because investors did not think this was for real. But now they realize that more drilling will start and stuff like that, so the oil services stocks are taking off.
What about the unrest in Iran? Is that a factor in the oil price?
Well, Iran's really more of a natural gas exporter than it is an oil exporter. So I would think that would really affect natural gas more than anything else. I don't even try to figure these things out anymore. I don't know how things are going to go in the Middle East. I don't think anyone else does either. And they're having problems over there. Certainly the U.S. government is happy to see the Ayatollahs rattled by an uprising from below. But that could be problematic for the natural gas market around the world. Probably won't have that much impact on the oil market, but you never know.
Well, one observation I had on one of my year-end shows was that geopolitics does not seem to influence the markets the way it used to be. There used to be a time if there were riots in Iran, oil prices would spike, or we would see gold prices dramatically increase. Now there seems to be a total calmness around the markets, and it's sort of a screw the rest of the world. We're just going to concentrate on economics.
Well, one thing that helps the oil markets is so much oil storage has been built around the world. In fact, I was looking at some pictures earlier today of there's one island in Japan that has a massive amount of oil oil storage, which can then be fed into China at a moment's notice if it needs to be. And actually, that's slowly being drained. So I think the world knows there's more oil storage. There's also storage on tankers and stuff like that. So there's less panic about these geopolitical events. At the same time, going back to my original point, global oil demand is increasing. So the storage around the world is slowly being drained. And we are going to get to that flashpoint, that tipping point, where there won't be as much to draw on in the storage as they want. And that's when we could really see an explosive move in prices.
We'll have more with Sean Brodrick right after the break.
I'm Brian Fowler, president of Blind Creek Resources Limited, listed on the TSX Venture Exchange, ticker symbol BCK. Blind Creek is focused in the Yukon, Northwest Territories, and British Columbia. The company's key property is the Blend Project, one of the largest undeveloped lead zinc silver deposits in Western Canada, plus plans to advance the recently acquired, fully permitted historic Engineer gold mine in the Atlan District of Northwestern BC. Check us out at blindcreekresources.com.
I'm Greg Johnston, CEO of Carl Data Solutions, an industrial Internet of Things company that provides big data solutions for monitoring critical infrastructure. Carl Data offers machine learning and predictive analytics features through our cloud-based applications to deliver key asset-saving operational insights from massive amounts of data. Carl Data trades on the CSE, symbol CRL, and the pink symbol CDTAF. For more details on Carl Data, please visit carlsolutions.com.
Welcome back. We're speaking with the birthday boy, Sean Brodrick. Sean, the Canadian dollar is still slightly over 80 cents US, but I've noticed that it's down today. The pound is down. The euro is down. What's going on?
Well, I mean, we are seeing the U.S. dollar rallying, and there's more of a feeling that we might have another rate hike this year, more than people had been pricing in, so the U.S. dollar has to go higher. Also, the U.S. dollar was kind of oversold. But the big trend in the dollar right now is down, so I would look at this as a short-term rally. Definitely watch the bonds, though, because at least on the 10-year, the price is going down and yields are going higher. There's a lot of reasons why that could be, but that's something the market's going to have to price in. There's a lot of debt out there that's actually hooked to the U.S. 10-year. And if the price of that, and so if the yield on that goes higher and higher, many of these global companies will find it maybe not impossible to pay back their debt, but it'll become more and more of a hardship for them. And so that will actually weigh on things. So definitely keep your eyes on the currency. I know I certainly am. Japan's now talking about unwinding its huge quantitative easing program it has, where it seems to be buying its entire stock market, maybe not doing that so much. And there's also some activity over in Europe as well. So that whole market's really fluid right now. The U.S. dollar had a terrible end of 2017. We'll see how 2018 goes. It's bouncing a bit right now, but I would expect that trend to go lower eventually, even if there is another rate hike, simply because of what's going on with the debt and that kind of thing.
How's the U.S. trade deficit doing?
Terrible. I mean, the U.S. trade deficit is near a 6-year high, and it's due to record imports because consumers are spending. Consumers actually don't feel bad, and small businesses actually feel darned good. Not just not bad. Small businesses feel good. So you put those two things together, and the U.S. wants to buy everything. The problem is everything's made overseas now, made in Asia, so we have to buy it. So the trade deficit looks terrible. And even though we have rising U.S. even though we have rising U.S. oil exports, even though we have rising U.S. natural gas exports, that's not enough to tip the balance. What is tipping the balance is that we are buying more of everything from overseas right now. And so imports of goods, for example, they jumped to a record high of $204 billion in November. And capital good imports, that was the highest on record. Imports of consumer goods rose to the highest level since March of 2015. So you put these things together, and the trade deficit in November rose to $66.7 billion from $65.6 billion in October. These are the most recent numbers. December shouldn't be that much different because we know consumer debt is rising. And so that just means that we are in a trend here where we really start to spend more of our money on overseas goods. Now, one thing is the U.S. dollar has been going down. Therefore, we might be buying not really that much more, but it takes more of the U.S. dollar to actually do it. You know, you need more dollars to buy stuff if your currency is actually weakening. So maybe it isn't as bullish as it looks, but it looks bullish for the consumer sector at this point.
We'll have more with Sean Brodrick right after this.
MGX Minerals is revolutionizing the new energy economy with patented lithium extraction technology, replacing traditional solar evaporation using low-cost, low-energy nanofiltration. The first system of this paradigm shift technology is currently being commissioned. MGX Minerals trades on the CSE, symbol XMG, the OTCQB, symbol MGXMF, and Frankfurt, symbol 1MG. For more information, visit our website, mgxminerals.com.
Keep informed. Receive our weekly recap of thought-provoking articles, podcasts, and radio delivered to your inbox for free. Sign up for the HowStreet.com weekly recap on our homepage, HowStreet.com. Welcome back. We're chatting with Sean Brodrick. Sean, lithium, how is that doing?
Lithium's doing well. In fact, I just put my subscribers in another position. Not all our lithium positions are up, but the ones that are up are rising rather rapidly. Things look very good. And we're going to have another triple-digit percentage winner in there pretty soon. So what's going on? I mean, when you look at it, a new report came out. It's a report published by Grandview Research, which is and it says that the global lithium-ion battery market is expected to reach $93.1 billion by 2025, and that means a compound annual growth rate of 17% between now and then. 17%! And so to build all those batteries, you're going to need more factories, you're going to need, you are going to need more lithium, you're going to need more cobalt, you're going to need more you name it. Now, you know, I keep talking about this EV megatrend. It's a real thing. It's being driven by China, by the way. You know, they are really setting the standard. In fact, China did something funny recently where they really wanted to improve their air quality. You know that it's a constant battle for them over there. So they found like the 10 or 12 worst polluting cars over in China, and they just banned the sales of them. Period. You can't sell those cars anymore. And they extended the tax credits, the tax breaks for the EV cars over there, the new energy vehicles. So they're NEV is actually what they call it there. So you know, that's a big story. As long as China keeps its foot on the accelerator in the electric car market, we are going to see expansion in this. And so I expect lithium stocks will continue to do very well.
China, of course, cracking down on air pollution because air pollution has reduced their life expectancy by 6 years, but I don't see much effort in China to reduce the smoking rate. So they want you to be healthy until it's time to collect your pension, then they want you to die from lung cancer.
Maybe, I mean, maybe they just realize that that's one thing that you can't really control. I mean, the U.S. has been fighting a war on drugs for forever and losing, and now that people are starting to see the commercial side of cannabis, of marijuana, my subscribers have been doing tremendously on that. You know, just really, really good. Now, that market, by the way, was shaken last week when Jeff Sessions, the U.S. Attorney General, and the Keebler elf who makes all the other elves nervous, he let the news be known. He didn't officially say this, but he let it be known that the Cole memo was going away. Now, what the Cole memo is that prevents the federal government from interfering in marijuana businesses as long as those marijuana businesses stay strictly within a state. In other words, as long as there's no federal activity, the government won't actually interfere with you. And some other important memos and stuff on that was also going away. Now, there has been an uproar. For one thing, that sent a lot of U.S. stocks lower, which I think is a buying opportunity because they will go higher. But also the pushback, not only from marijuana growers, not only from Democrats, but also from Republicans, has been tremendous. Republican Senator Cory Gardner of Colorado, who no one will consider a liberal, and in fact opposed marijuana legalization up until the voters of his state said, we're going to have it, and then he jumped on board the train. He said he would block all of President Trump's judicial nominees until the administration reverses its decision to rescind that policy, that new policy that Jeff Sessions is pushing. So there's some tremendous pushback on this. And this could be what actually galvanizes the states to force the Fed's hand and get the Fed's mitts off of marijuana. So even though Jeff Sessions may not want to do this, he may be helping the cannabis business in the long run. We'll have to see how this plays out. I think people are still right to be nervous about investing in U.S. marijuana businesses, but then I had my subscribers in Canadian businesses. I mean, we had some U.S. companies, but mostly Canadian, and we took some huge gains last week and stuff like that, just big fat gains. So there's a lot going on in that market. Definitely stay tuned. See what happens with Jeff Sessions, but the next few weeks could be crucial, so definitely stay tuned on that.
Well, if you want law and order, if you want to take the biggest bite out of organized crime, take away their marijuana sales.
Well, of course, everyone points this out. Jeff Sessions doesn't believe it. He believes that marijuana is as bad as heroin. He believes all sorts of things that aren't true. But I've found that with many people in power. They believe things that aren't true, and no one dares to tell them otherwise. So, we'll have to see how it plays out. I think that the voters have spoken in a lot of these states, and if a state doesn't want to make it legal, that's fine. I mean, ruin someone's life, send them to jail for smoking a joint if that's what you like to do. But the upside in both business and employment, and also let's add the upside in potential taxes, is just too much for most states to resist. So I expect it to keep on moving. And I think the next big thing, we just had California legalized. The next big thing will be, depends on when New Jersey legalizes. That's probably coming sooner rather than later. But we know that in the middle of the summer, Canada will be legalizing, and I think a lot of eyes will be on that as well. So there's a lot of drivers out there, and so things should keep moving along. Jeff Sessions, though, could push prices down depending on what actions he takes. But I believe that move downward in those stocks will be the next buying opportunity. That's the way I'm playing it.
Could you see actual confrontations between law enforcement officials in a place like California and federal officials over the legality of what people in that particular state have declared legal?
Well, this isn't Fox News, so let's not go into the big box and make pretend, right? We don't know what'll happen. So we aren't going to go out on a limb and just do all these hair-raising scenarios where things in the worst possible scenario might play out. I would hope not. I think cooler heads will prevail. I believe that the group that wants to reverse history on cannabis is a small minority within the Justice Department. That's my personal belief. We don't know yet. And we'll see how it plays out. But I do believe cooler heads will prevail. There's a lot of money in this for everybody. And we know this because former Canadian government officials who for years put people in jail for marijuana are now getting into the marijuana business. I was just reading about that last week too. And so there are people who ruined other people's lives for decades, and now they're in the marijuana business. So there's all sorts of weird stuff going on here. But I think that cooler heads will prevail, and Sessions, he's definitely trying to shovel against the tide. I don't think it's going to go well for him, but that doesn't mean he can't have some early success. That early success would drive prices down, prices of the stocks, not of marijuana. And so if it does drive prices down, that's your next buying opportunity here.
Do you see a time where it'll be legal to ship marijuana from Canada into California and vice versa?
Why not? You can ship marijuana from Canada into parts of Latin America now. Of course, eventually that will come along. The thing is, when is eventually going to be? I'm now 58 years old. Hopefully it'll be within my lifetime. But, these things, the wheels can turn slowly, so it can take quite some time.
Well,
but at least on a state level, I think that the forces of legalization are really going to hold the line against whatever Jeff Sessions really tries to do. And one important point for Canadian investors that I will point out is that the longer that marijuana is kept illegal on a federal level in the U.S., the better it is for Canadian companies, because that means they don't have to compete on a level with these U.S. companies that have tremendous amounts of cash, but for now are forced to stay out of the cannabis business. So that means those Canadian companies can grow bigger, can grow stronger, can expand their global markets without having to compete with the U.S. companies. So maybe it's all these Canadians that are writing letters to Jeff Sessions saying, "Go Jeff, go! Go Jeff, go!" because they want this to happen. So I don't know. But there's a lot of different things at play here, and I just think Jeff Sessions is on the wrong side of history, and that'll be shown sooner or later.
Sean, how can people find out more about Weiss Ratings?
Well, they can go to weissratings.com. That's a place where if you go to the drop-down menu on services, you will see Wealth Supercycle, which is my new monthly newsletter, and my premium services are around there somewhere. But definitely check the site out, because what they do is they do safety ratings of stocks. You can find out, which stocks are safe, which are not, which are improving, which are not actually getting better and stuff like that. So it's a good site to check out anyway.
Thank you so much for chatting with us, Sean.
Thank you very much for having me on.
My guest has been Sean Brodrick, who's now a senior editor at WeissRatings.com. You're listening to HowStreet.com radio. Find us on Twitter at HowStreet. Our popular YouTube channel is Talk Digital Network. Questions for the show or for Sean can be sent to info@HowStreet.com. I'm Jim Goddard. Thanks for listening.
Comments made on HowStreet.com radio are an expression of opinion only and should not be construed in any matter whatsoever as recommendations to buy or sell any financial instrument at any time. Available online at TalkDigitalNetwork.com. HowStreet.com radio is a production of HowStreet Media Incorporated.